simple tourist point of view, the city of Dublin is looking a picture today. Less than 2 minutes to the start of the main event. The runners assembled in Leeson Street, a traffic jam of a very different kind. Let's join Jerry Kelly.
The runners are at the start. They're getting ready now. They're going to be moving up and around within a second. The 10th
Sorry about that. The link to Jerry Kelly was not working for us at that moment, but now we're in a position to check on the field for the marathon with again the favourite John Griffin. Let's remind you, the gun sounds and they're away, and John Griffin in the green singlet of Ireland, last year's winner, number 1, is in that leading bunch as they head away. The balloons go up, the elite runners have gone, and Stephen's Green plays host yet again to the gathering of the thousands as they set off on their epic journey around the streets of the city of Dublin.
And there's just a couple of runners I can see back the field here who are not starting out on their first marathon by any means this morning. They're going on their third. They have already run 2 marathons over the weekend, one in Eastbourne and one in Harlow in England. They flew in last night with a delay of 2 hours at the airport, and they're back on the road this morning. They're members of the Kavanagh Striders from Glasnevin, and they're led by Dr. Claude Carroll. So they're doing 3 marathons in 3 days.
Still they stream out of Leeson Street into Stephen's Green South and away towards the Liberties.
Just looking back, there's a couple of characters actually holding flags and various banners that's going to be able to carry them all around the course. They'll be pretty tired by the time they get back here.
Of course, the race over the years has raised millions of pounds for charity in Ireland, and it's no exception this year, with many people running with numbers on their vests carrying the names of their favourite charity.
Some charities more favoured than others. Not surprisingly, the Our Lady's Hospital for Sick Children at Crumlin is always a favourite among runners wishing to devote their energies to a specific cause, reflecting yesterday on a mammoth amount of sponsorship each year that goes that way.
Absolutely. I believe they have something like 900 runners affiliated to them, and they have their own race every year where they get close to 1,000 runners. But I would say they have several hundred people in this race today running for Our Lady's Hospital for Sick Children.
Well, that's the last of the motley crew setting off. There's one gentleman back there I think is going to do well to get out of Leeson Street. It's a long way they have ahead of them. That's the south side of Stephen's Green as they move towards Kevin Street through Cup Street, and a journey that will take them past Christchurch Cathedral and St. Patrick's Cathedral, and then on into deeper into the Liberties. This is the moment that the runners will cherish, I'm sure. If they see it on the video, they'll be fast forwarding and rewinding to spot themselves in the middle of that lot. And there's a man with a mission. He's got a young child in that buggy, and he's going to take the child on the long trip round.
I'd say he'll have very sore hips tomorrow with that.
Youghal Christian Brothers School, no doubt. One of our intrepid reporters will catch up with him later in the course. So the balloon has gone up in Dublin. Almost 4,000 competitors have headed off on the 10th Dublin Marathon, sponsored this year by CDL Tolite. And that's the aircraft that's providing us with these pictures. Good morning to you, runners. Perfect day for a marathon from a spectator's point of view. But Frank, what about the perfection of the climate from the runner's point of view today?
I think it's an excellent day for running. In fact, just before the race I was speaking to John Griffin, Marty Dean and Hammy Cox, and they were all saying that they were delighted with the weather. They didn't worry about the heat. It was far better than the rain or the wind that we've been encountering. But
So obviously, early days to be considering who's a likely winner, but we're looking at the elite here. That's Marty Dean from Belfast, number 2 in the white singlet there. The green singlet of John Griffin is not apparent at this point. Pat Heffernan from Tip is in there. And in the blue, Hammy Cox from Scotland there, number 4, alongside Marty Dean. With a very impressive run here earlier. John Griffin in the middle there. The all green, number 1. And beside him, Eamon Tierney.
John Fitzgerald is another man who could have run very well today. He's got an ideal style. Actually, all the guys that we're talking about are all men, very short in stature, small, slight men. So it'll be interesting to see. There's none of them very tall. Having said that, there's a guy in yellow coming up there now, making a liar out of me. And that's Joey Peppert from Raheny.
John Griffin, of course, won the national marathon earlier this year down in Tralee, in his hometown in Tralee, and he really wants to add Dublin again to emulate Dick Hooper's feat of winning it twice in a row. Marty Dean is recently qualified as a doctor, and he works in the casualty department in the Royal Hospital in Belfast. He's also very anxious to take the title back up north.
We're looking down on St. Patrick's Cathedral as they head across into Ash Grove and the Coombe. Magnificent scenic sight, but as you can see, marathon runners' eyes don't tend to wander to the beauties of the skyscape, the skyline of a major historical city like Dublin. They have more on their plate, and where their eyes tend to focus if they're looking down, they'll notice that they're not running all the way on the pleasant tarmac Adam surface. There are stretches of hard concrete to be encountered as well.
Yes, actually, they will hit some fairly hard concrete out at Edenmore. They'll be just up past the 20-mile stage. I was talking to a man from Belfast, actually. He's originally from John Dunn. He's originally from Kells, and he admitted to being 66 plus, and he was saying that when he hit that last year, that's when his legs really tied up. But he kind of at the same time says it's a good course to run, and he enjoys himself. But we're back with the leaders, and there's Marty Dean, and they're all just feeling their way now at this stage.
Watch for one man in there wearing yellow singlet, Tommy Hughes from Mahara. In fact, he's known as the Iron Man from Mahara, and this is his 5th marathon this year. He won a number of international top marathons last year, including the Marrakesh Marathon, and only recently ran in the Melbourne Marathon. Now, Tommy is one of the really teak-tough competitors in this race, and he will take a lot of shaking off as well.
Now we're looking down on them as they progress through the Liberties. They're in the Coombe at the moment. It's a long way ahead of them. 26 miles, 385 yards. Beautiful pictures there from that motorcycle piloted by Ian Stewart, a Commonwealth medalist himself, an athlete of note, and that's his bike that's providing us with those pictures. Brummy boy, but ran for Scotland in the Commonwealth Games, competed for Britain too in the Olympics. Yes, splendid, splendid pictures, I think you'll agree. The man in front of the moment, early leader Dominic Moore from Tipperary. This is his first Dublin City Marathon. No projected time, no nothing. In there is a bit of a rabbit.
Yeah, I think he's just going in there to make the pace. He's probably a bit excited for the early miles. I don't think he's going to figure in the shake-up at all. But he's going to have his little bit of glory out there in front, and he's going to remember this day for a long time.
These are some of the more likely lads. Pat Heffernan from Tipperary was number 10 there, who's figuring prominently in that bunch.
I think Pat is a man that we shouldn't write off. He's a former national marathon champion, and he ran 2:25 in very windy conditions in Galway. So he's going to be there or thereabouts.
This
We're turning into Rialto now.
This just gives you an indication of how swiftly they make the break out of Stephen's Green and off onto the course. You see the Dublin Ice Rink there, that large building ahead to the right of the picture. They're making that right turn into the South Circular Road, Rialto, and shortly they'll be coming abreast of St James's Hospital on their right as the South Circular Road swings round in Rialto, and they then head towards one of what we yesterday driving it described as one of the more cynical aspects of the course, when they reach a set of traffic lights, head off on a great big loop and end up back at the same place.
It's just not fair.
So they're in Rialto now. If you're up there in Kilmainham watching this, get out onto the street and have a look at them as they pass your front door. Beautiful morning. Give them the encouragement they require. They'll be along Bullfin Road into Southern Cross Avenue, Golden Bridge Avenue, then onto Davitt Road and alongside the canal. So before they reach the canal, if you're in Southern Cross Avenue, Golden Bridge Avenue or Davitt Road, why not get out, or in one of the adjoining streets, get out and onto the street and give them a cheer. This marvellous event, the 10th CDL Colite Dublin Marathon underway. As yet we await a clear break, a clear leader, though we do have our hare in front, who is the Tipperary man. But we'll be hearing more about him, no doubt, later in the race. Let's now take a break.
Warm up with CDL, Ireland's largest coal company. CDL coal is no ordinary coal. It's the highest quality, best value and widest range in the country. Try CDL Colite for a high heat fire without smoke. Just one of our superior quality coals.
CDL quality coal.
How do you make a nourishing school lunch that's in a class of its own? Easy. When it's a question of good food, the answer is easy. Easy Singles from Golden Vale.
When it finds you, a cold will make you suffer by day and by night. Now there's 24-hour relief from cold and flu symptoms. Day and night. 3 tablets for daytime relief from runny nose, headaches, shivering, and 1 for nighttime, easing aches and pains, thus helping you to sleep. Day and night from the makers of Benylin.
What's America's favorite chocolate?
Melts in your mouth.
It melts in your mouth.
Not in your hand.
M&M's.
I'm an
M&M's chocolate center, and he's a peanut.
A roasted serving peanut.
We're gonna dip him
In pure milk chocolate.
color him in a candy-coated shell.
So there's no chocolate mess. Look. Guess what's in her hand?
M&M's milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand. M&M's.
superstores. And things are not quite what they seem. Nursery rhymes come alive. All is revealed in magic mugs. $1.99 when you shop at L&N Superstores.
Hey, Beanie, everyone knows that bachelors take the finest beans in Ireland.
Right, Barney.
But we're on peas patrol today.
Making sure everyone knows that the tasty peas we grow in Ireland are high in fibre and protein.
So, why are we getting the VIP treatment?
Because bachelors produce very impressive peas, Barney.
Wow. Wow.
And welcome back to our coverage of the 10th Dublin Marathon. The runners have passed through the Coombe, the leading runners that is, and they've moved out into the Kilmainham area now. Sorry about the slight problem there on the picture, but this coverage of a marathon, any event like this, achieved by means of considerable electronic wizardry, and if at times it goes down we would ask your forbearance, but we're bringing you live coverage of the whole of the Dublin Marathon. We're now looking down from the helicopter as it hovers above the field as they approach a feed station. And you notice there just the litter being tossed aside. It's 3 miles they've completed. That feed station is on the South Circular Road in Dolphin's Bar. And there was a nice shot of the South Circular Road, but we now have a nice shot of the banks of the canal. This is where they've turned onto the banks of the canal. They're heading up away from Kilmainham, along towards Inchicore. Tom Jordan from Wexford is just leading the pack at the moment. That canal was looking quite full yesterday, but no sign of an overflow today.
In fact, Tom Jordan, he ran very well recently in the Frank Duffy 10 up in the park here in Dublin, but he told me after that race that he thought he was going to have a lash for about half of the marathon, wasn't sure if he was going to finish it, so he may be just testing the waters here today.
Over the bridge they go. That's the canal that's been filled in since, which has now been turned into a rather fine walkway, but canal that's still in existence with the ducks in the background, and some of the wheelchair athletes have been caught by the elite runners who are making their way past them and into the lead. And in the wheelchair race, this is the lead.
That's Chris Hallam from Wales, from Cumbrawn. Actually, some of these bikes cost over £1,000, these wheelchair bikes, and they get them specially. They have to sometimes bring them in from America, and the gloves they wear, actually wear out a pair of gloves in a marathon. They use so much wear and tear on their hands. Fantastic.
Really the immense power that they put into propelling themselves along. Back down the field.
Just coming up to the bridge there. It looks like just to the bridge there, over the canal that was filled in there. Actually, it has certainly added, the filling in of the canal there around by James's Walk is certainly filled in. I think that's the canal that used to bring the Grand Canal. Grand Canal is the one on the south side. Grand Canal down to the to Guinness's, where they used to send off the stuff with the white head many moons ago.
Back with the lead in the wheelchair event.
Of course, this man Chris Hallam, he has done an incredible 1 hour 51 minutes for the marathon distance, and that clearly establishes him as favourite today. He did that time actually in the Seoul Paralympics, and he's known to Irish sports fans very well because he has often been in the London Marathon.
They've actually passed the 6-mile mark up there in the Walkinstown Road area. Tom Jordan passing number 259 in the wheelchairs.
Tom Jordan is still the leader in the Dublin Marathon. Making their way towards the Lion's Teeth factory on the banks of the canal into Kilworth Road. Well, he's enjoying it. He said beforehand his aim was to enjoy it and do well.
I think it shows you how well in control he is. He's time to throw kisses to the camera. Sandy Haynes.
While they're out in front, way back the course, there are plenty of athletes still in action, passing maybe your way. Making their way through Dublin 8. Heading into Bullfin Road. They're not too far away from St. Patrick's Athletics' home at Richmond Park. We're looking at them as they come out there of Golden Bridge Avenue. That's the little piece I described as a cynical bit, where they go straight off for several hundred yards, turn left and then come straight back again. And we're looking at them now coming straight back, having gone straight on off the South Circular Road into Bullfin Road. And now they make a little right onto David Road, cross the canal at the bridge, and then turn right onto the canal. They're some way off the pace, the ones we're looking at now. And this is the leader, still in front.
He's still out there in front, but I would have my doubts at this stage that I think the group will pull him back in a little bit of time, and he's going to be swallowed up by that group in the next couple of miles. Certainly, I wouldn't expect him to be out there in front after halfway.
That's Tom Jordan from Wexford.
Of course, the little bit of a detour they have to make there, that is the first time they have to do it on the course, because traditionally the race started in Fitzwilliam Street. This year it starts in Lower Leeson Street, so the extra ground has to be made up somewhere along the marathon route.
Now this is the chasing group, and perhaps our eventual winner will be among them. That's the end of Bullfin Road as far as the runners are concerned, turning left into Southern Cross Avenue. And getting plenty of cheers. That's round the roundabout in Drimnagh.
Coming into Cooley Road, actually, and a very famous Irish athlete was there. No doubt his mother will be out to cheer on the athletes. The same in Coughlin lived in Cooley Road. Eamon's house just further up there. The athletes probably, well, they won't stop for a minute and bow, but I'm sure Mrs. Coughlin will be out there giving them a cheer, as she always is every year.
Interesting to see Hammy Cox with the cap coming up there in front as well. Hammy ran really well in the Derry half marathon there a couple of weeks ago, and he won it decisively. The man from Edinburgh actually started his career in running as a sprinter.
So they're on Cooley Road now, and the end of this they'll arrive at famous Children's Hospital, Our Ladies in Crumlin, and then make a right onto Drimnagh Road. And they've been running now a little over 22 minutes. 5 miles just about completed. Pace-wise, Frank?
Yeah, pace-wise they're going pretty steady now at the moment. They've run, what, 22 minutes for 5 miles? They'll be somewhere in the 2:15, 2:16 region there.
We're looking down at the moment onto Golden Bridge Avenue. That's the stragglers, and then they have to come round, sort of bottom of the picture, veer right, and then over the bridge and head along the canal. But back in Cooley Road, the chasing group. And right now they're about outside Eamon Coughlin's family home. The lawn looking splendid yesterday afternoon.
The city even looks better today, I think, the sun out. We went around yesterday, there was a few clouds and we just dodged a few drops as well, but it really looks beautiful today. As the main bunch head out David Road.
So that's where the marathon is at the moment. The best of them are just about Our Lady's Hospital in Crumlin now, but the rest of the field is strung out along Cooley Road, Kilworth Road, back in towards Inchicore. If you're indoors looking at this in the area, get out there and give them a cheer. These lads now turning the corner at the hospital and onto the main road. So the Dublin Marathon is strung out all the way through the southwest of the city, and these are the chasers after the leader, our leader at the moment. But those athletes we're looking at now, just passing the wall of Our Lady's Children's Hospital at Crumlin. Normally the bus stop and the taxi rank there. They're heading on out of town then. They'll proceed still further out the Drimna Road until the Halfway House pub and then turn left at the Bank of Ireland up into Walkins Town. But we're still got plenty of athletes making their way along the banks of the canal.
You mentioned the Halfway House there, pub, but I mean that's not the halfway of the race, and I sincerely hope they don't think that they can go in there for some sustenance. Sustenance can be got when you come back here to the green. I don't think we should encourage them to stop at the Halfway House.
It'll be a very strange halfway, that's for sure, because it's only, what, 6 miles into the event. 6 of the 26. But the ladies and gentlemen of the canal not particularly impressed by what's going on around. There's John Griffin in the middle, all in green. Strongly fancied 4 is Hammy Cox, the Scot. Indulging in the bunya. And further into the bunch we look.
That's the leading lady, actually. It looks like that's Jo Groves from London. She's got a best of 2:55. Very short haircut. Could be described as an athletic haircut, but I think it's a bit severe. Running nice and easy at this stage.
But our leader overall has been Tom Jordan from Wexford. One wonders, is he still out there with distance between him and the chasing bunch? That will reveal for you very shortly. Of course, it's an international event. The Dublin Marathon attracts runners from all over the place. A sizable contingent, as indeed our leading lady, come from England.
So that's Jo Groves from London. She hopes to do 2:45, but her best is only 2:55. So she's hoping to knock off 10 minutes today. And you'll always notice that in races like this, where the girls are, there's always going to be a few fellas around them. They'll pace them, they'll encourage them. I mean, a lot of the guys will be running just fairly handily at 2:45, 2:50. Could run a lot faster, but it's nice to give a girl a hand. And I know that the girls all appreciate all the help that they get from the fellas. Because if it's windy, they'll stand in front of you, they'll stop the wind coming. And they'll also, if you're finding a hill tough, they'll talk you up a hill. As you can see, there's a guy there in the blue shorts and the red singlet is talking to Jo and helping her up.
Of course, you have over 500 runners in here from England for the event, and I believe the sponsors intend to double that or treble it next year with a strong marketing campaign in England.
And Tom Jordan is still in front. I'll give our credit to the man who was helping Jo Groves along with Pat Cunningham from Galway, but this is the man in front of them all at the moment, Tom Jordan. But it's a lonely old hole for him, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think he'd be feeling the pace after another few miles here. It's interesting, actually, back in the leading pack that there are quite a number of athletes from Munster involved in the shake-up up front. And I see there that John Scanlon from Kappa in West Limerick is with the group. Also, you have John Griffin, John Fitzgerald, and that trio, and Pat Heffernan. That trio, our four people, are certainly going to fight hard to bring the title of the Dublin City Marathon this year to Munster.
We're back down on the canal here. They've just passed the Lions Tea factory, the Nor factory, and they're round left off the banks of the canal into Kilworth Road. And that's the kind of distance that we're talking about. 5 miles for them, a little under 5 miles for them, while our leader is up on St. Peter's Road 2 miles ahead of them, having left behind the Cherry Tree pub. This is Tom Jordan still in front. If he cared to look up ahead of him, he'd see the 3 Rock transmitter of Radio Telefishern, and it'll be a beautiful morning for looking at the hills, but I shouldn't think he's focused on that. He's focused himself on a point in the middle distance on ahead, on a road that'll be familiar to anybody who's come into Dublin from the southwest and used it as a ring road. It's the road that brings you in from the Naas Road all the way round to end up on the Bray Road at Foster Avenue. But at this stage of it, it's Walkinstown, it's St. Peter's Road, and they're heading from St. Peter's Road round a roundabout and onto Greentrees Road, and then Templeville Road, Springfield Avenue down into Rathfarnham, Terranure. That's the kind of area they're going now. If you're down at Terranure or Rathfarnham and watching this, why not think about stepping outside the front door and give them a cheer as they pass.
And we're back with the leading woman at this stage, Jo Groves. She's just running along there, nice and easy. It's easy to see that it's not very windy today because she's sitting there. She's not taking any of the shelter that she could get from the fellas, but they're still there, just helping her along. She's heading up Walkinstown Road. This is a bit of a climb here at this stage.
Tom Traynor there from England, 1675. Jo Groves, the leading lady.
I just noticed there a man number 45, Corey Killeen, he always seems to latch himself onto the leading woman. He's from Moore in County Roscommon, and I've noticed him a few years. He's always been in there with giving out the pace with the leading woman. This year is no exception. He's running himself for about 20 years.
He probably fancies the women, you know, gets his face on television, and he can go home and stick his chest out and say, "Did you see me, lads?" And he can talk about that for the next year in the local pub.
He's in town with his wife this weekend too.
Well, just because you're on a diet doesn't mean you can't look at the menu.
That's Walkinstown Road they're on now. 26 there, Paddy Brady from Tipperary seem to be struggling a bit. 42 in there, Frank Gill from Dublin.
It's a little bit early to be struggling at this stage after 7 or 8 miles. Obviously somebody hasn't got a lot of work done.
So that's what they've done already. They left Stephen's Green, headed through the Liberties and on out towards Kilmainham, then into Drimna, came up to that kink in it, which was at the Children's Hospital at Crumlin, out the Drimna Road, and then moving through the roundabout at the Cherry Tree Pub onto St. Peter's Road, and ahead along St. Peter's Road into Walkinstown, and eventually they'll end up following that road all the way round down in Rathfarnham Road, Terranure, where they'll make another left and right and head off to the KCR, the Kimmage Crossroads, down then Lower Kimmage Road past Mount Argus and Rathmines Road, and along the banks of the canal to complete, as it were, the first half of the course, when they'll be almost within our sight, sitting in Stephen's Green at Leeson Street Bridge.
And that looks like as if we've got the second woman there, number 235, and if she looks familiar, she should be familiar to a lot of us. That's Elizabeth Bullen. She's better known possibly as Elizabeth Tracy. She hopes to run 2:45 today. She was 9th last year, and her brother is the Irish record holder at the distance. That's John Tracy, of course, and she's not in any distress. She's just looking around and kind of forward to chat, so that's an indication of how well she's feeling. She rolls her shoulders slightly more than the brother, but at the same time she has that kind of a gait like John Tracy. Now her face is not as contorted as John is when he's running along, but there's a definite resemblance. There's bound to be, of course. They're twins.
In fact, Liz was just saying this morning that she's delighted to be back in Ireland again. She was immigrated to England some years ago, was married into a Liverpool man, and she's back now in Villierstown running the family business, and she has 2 children down there.
So what a good performance by Liz Bullen, Nay Tracy. Second at the moment to Joe Groves in the ladies section of the event. And that just repeats the point that the lady runner attracts, as it were, shall we say, a swarm of drones to keep her happy as she progresses. But what is it we've been saying, a marvellous day for marathon running. No need for the slipstreaming today because there's nothing, no wind at all. That's the chasing group. And this is the kind of gap that we're talking about. That's St. Mary's Rugby Club there on the right, just as we're looking down on them. Templeville Road and the roundabout coming up, but there's quite a bit of a gap between this handy chasing pack and the leader. Still our leader, as he has been since very early on.
I'd be surprised if Tom Jordan stays there. He's gone very hard and gone well away. I think at this stage, if he stays there, it'll be some achievement. I was talking to Pat Hooper the other night, Pat's big brother. He's also in the field. He was hoping to run well, but he made the point very forcibly the other night that John Griffin's a man who likes to sit in, and he's doing just that today. He'll never take the pace away. So it'll be interesting to see whether John is going to let Tom Jordan go to about 10, 12 miles and then decide he will have to just take it up and go after him, because if Jordan continues on at this stage, Frank, he could steal a march on a lot of them.
Well, he could. The only thing I think that's against Jordan is his experience. He's a beautiful economically man in running. He's poetry in motion running, but I don't think he has the experience. I don't think he has the background to beat a field like this. In fact, last year, just coming down around the canal, there was a leader like this. Toddy Finn was out in front, and John Griffin came up to him and he made the quip. He said, "Toddy, you're breaking my heart. Slow down." Now, Toddy promptly stood to the side and let John through. This may well happen today.
You're talking about experience. Oh, this is Pauline Nolan. Pauline Nolan from DCH. I expect Pauline to run very well. She's a real marathon runner, short stride. And not alone is Pauline a good runner on the roads, but actually during the summer, Pauline turned out for DCH in the walk and ran very well. She hopes to run around 2:48, 2:49 today. Very impressive winner of the Clonliffe 20. We were making the point earlier on, lots of fellas around to help her along. They'll encourage her all the way. As I say, she's very small, very slight, and ideally suited for marathon running. She's from out the Shankill area, but has been running with DCH, and Jim Kilty's her coach. I think she could come through very well. In the Clon of 20, she ran very, very conservatively early on, but she was the girl who finished in just over the 2 hours there in September.
Of course, we've had some great Irish wins in this, notably Emily Dowling. We also had Mary Purcell with a great victory in this race. And Kiri May, of course, started off the very first Dublin Marathon. She was the winner of that one. She now runs for Canada.
That's our leader looking down from the helicopter. And he still seems to be moving quite easily. Tom Jordan out in front. He is now some distance ahead in the general area of, well, approaching Rathfarnham.
Well, Frank was just talking about inexperience. I mean, he's got a gap of about 200 yards. But I remember in 1983, there was a certain man, Kerry man, called Kiernan, Jerry by name, never ran a marathon before, but he was the first man home on the day.
And he's still the fastest over the course, Catherine, as well, over the original course, that is 2:13:45. Can any of these guys beat this today? I doubt it very much.
And we're back with the chasers, with the third place of the ladies.
That's Pauline Nolan.
Of course, Jerry Kiernan went on to run a magnificent 9th place in the Olympic Marathon in Los Angeles, and that was a feat that he was never even fully recognised for here. It was one of the all-time great runs by an Irish marathon runner, and Jerry is very much a part, always will be a part of the Dublin Marathon.
But you couldn't really, I know Jerry didn't get the recognition for his 9th place in the Olympic Marathon in '84, but you've got to remember that John Tracy was second, so therefore that was our medal for that year, so it was bound to be, Jerry's great run was bound to be overshadowed by John's. Talking about John Tracy, the twin sister, is bound to be overshadowed by John's fantastic run that day. And Elizabeth Bullen's there, I'd say she's got about 200 or 300 yards in Pauline Nolan at this stage. She's not as slight as John is, and number 265 in the wheelchairs.
Elizabeth Bullen actually finished 10th here last year and broke 3 hours, but she's predicting something in the region of about 2:40, 2:45 today.
265, Heather O'Hare in the wheelchair there from Dublin, taking part in her first marathon. And battling grimly on. Now, up above Bushy Park is our helicopter looking down on the area that used to be Rathfarnham Golf Club. And the road that sweeps you down to the crossroads at Turnier Road, Rathfarnham. The River Dodder on the left of the picture. It really is looking a picture today, isn't it, Dublin?
Dublin looks magnificent.
Well, out here at Leeson Street Bridge, we've got Pat Duff and Claire Kennedy from the Special Olympics. And how have you got involved in a feeding station?
Well, a lot of the organisers help us with our national games in Belfast every year, so we like to help them. A lot of Special Olympics made up of volunteers, so we like to help anytime.
And tell me something, I mean, how many people are you expecting to go through the feeding station here?
About 3,500.
3,500. And tell me, what went into setting up all of this?
Volunteer. We've 8 o'clock, and we expect to be here until roughly 4 o'clock, 4:30 this afternoon. We then clean up, get everything ready, and leave the place ready for the traffic for tomorrow morning.
Right, and how many have you got helping along here?
We have 15 volunteers just coming along. They get the for carry, put off, and leave it ready.
Show me this. How do you do this now?
Well, you stand over there and you would open and you just squeeze it into your mouth as you're running along. Do you want to try?
All right, and you've got all these Pocari bottles on here. You've got water up along there.
We have 2,500 of Pocari and 2,500 of water, so the runners can have their choice of Pocari or water.
And are there people asking for special drinks as they come along?
Some people who have special drinks, they organise that themselves with their own team. So we're just catering for the normal runner, the ordinary runner.
And how long do you expect to be here for?
Oh, 5 or 6 o'clock tonight, I suppose.
All right, well, enjoy your day's work. Back to you, George.
Thank you.
Jerry Kelly down on Leeson Street Bridge. We haven't got anybody running around Leeson Street Bridge yet, but they'll be there not too long from now. They'll be approaching the halfway point in the marathon when they reach Leeson Street Bridge, so maybe we're talking about 30 to 45 minutes. It's some time before they'll be there, but at the moment our leaders are out in Terranure Road West. That's where they're headed now, having gone through Terranure Cross. 9 miles is what they've clocked, as you see.
Running about 5.5 minute miles.
The route from here takes them to the Kimmage Crossroads, then down Lower Kimmage Road, through Harold's Cross, onto the canal, and they'll proceed all the way along the canal then to Haddington Road, down Bath Avenue, where they'll reach the halfway point, and then head up towards the East Link Bridge.
Of course, there's some beautiful running as you come down there by Harold's Cross and onto the canal, where you have a real flat running for a number of miles. And this will really suit the like of John Griffin and also Hammy Cox, people like that who are love to get the free open road in front of them and let loose.
The marathon proceeds, and we'll be back with it in just a couple of minutes.
And the greetings, all brought to you by Ariantha, the airport managers.
Zip Firelighters keep you warm this winter. 250 great prizes of a ton of peat briquettes must be won. See special Zip Firelighter packs for details.
In those early days, still learning the tricks of the trade, I took a shot of Wallace Carruthers. For a man who'd invented nylon, he was shy, full of doubt. I don't think he ever really knew what those soft, sheer nylons did for women. But I guess he changed a million lives.
Nylons, now available from Pretty Polly.
Pocari is a deeply refreshing drink that helps put back what exercise takes out. It's isotonic, so it gets into the bloodstream fast, delaying fatigue and extending stamina. Pocari. Longer, further, faster.
Cause Denny have got. Denny have what? Denny have got what? What have they got? Come on now. Denny, you've got taste.
You'll find all your favourites in the great Denny range of sliced cooked meats. So handy for salads, cold snacks and sandwiches with all the goodness of Denny.
Denny, you've got taste.
Warm up with CDL, Ireland's largest coal company. CDL coal is no ordinary coal. It's the highest quality, best value and widest range in the country. Try CDL Coalite for a high heat fire without smoke. Just one of our superior quality coals.
CDL quality coal.
Tom Jordan from Wexford is still the leader, and as you can see, he still has some distance between him and the rest of the pack on Lower Kimmage Road, 10 miles past, and he's been on the go for just over 52 minutes now. Best marathon he's run came this year up in Belfast on the May Bank holiday there, when he ran 2 hours 25. These are the wheelchair athletes at Leeson Street, way ahead of the runners. The wheelchair marathon tends to finish first.
Kevin Breen there in the slipstream is a man 260. 260 in the wheelchair is Kevin Dorn from England. He's done a 2:15.
Back to Tom Jordan, and the Mount Argus Community Centre sign will tell you where they are now. Formerly, of course, where Father Brian Darcy was at home. It's the crossroads at Sundrive Road. And the towers of Mount Argus should be just about visible to him now on his left if he cares to look. And if he bears in mind the inspiration that that might provide with him, he might also bear in mind that he's progressing through the home area of one David Taylor, another noted athlete.
It's interesting there to look too at the chasing group seem to be splitting up somewhat. We see an aerial shot here, and Tom Jordan himself seems to be just that little bit under pressure. He knows now that there's going to be a definite effort to catch him before very long, and one wonders how he feels on the road at this point.
I think he's heading downhill now, so that might give him some encouragement to keep going. It's not so much that it's downhill, but that it seems downhill, because as you know, Dublin is built around the Liffey, and it kind of goes up from each side. So they went up one side of the Liffey, coming back towards the Liffey, and then they'll climb slightly again. I know people will say it's not a hill, but it is slight climb up as they go towards Raheny. So he seems to be running downhill. If you look back at the long shot there, you can see that the road is ever so slightly climbing, but he's got a tremendous lead at this stage.
Of course, it's a bit like cycling in many ways. There's nothing to beat the group where one fellow feeds off the other and helps the pace along. They'll probably be alternating the lead now in the chasing group, and that makes it more difficult for the man out front to stay in front. But as you say, Catherine, Jerry Kiernan went out like this some years ago, and he lived to tell the tale.
Tom Jordan, who competed in the Dublin Marathon in the consecutive years 83, 84 and 85, and hasn't competed since, just resuming this year after that splendid run in Belfast in May. What a beautiful day he has to run in the sun beating down from an almost cloudless sky. Those old wispy clouds might suggest that within the next 48 hours in Dublin we'll have rain again, but as far as this bank holiday Monday is concerned, I think he can leave the brolly and the raincoat at home and get out and cheer the marathon on. Very brave man to do this, Tom Jordan, but what about this fella here in the cerebral palsy section of the event, and he looks so untroubled.
Yes, Willie even designed this bike himself, Willie London. He, as I said earlier in the programme, he did a warm-up for this event by taking part in the Maracycle all the way from Dublin to Belfast and back, a 15-hour endurance test, and he's one of the tough ones.
Now back to Tom Jordan, approaching Mount Jerome Cemetery on his left. And that is in the same general area. The little park there is at Harold's Cross. The cemetery just in there, as you can see, top of picture. Our Lady's Hospice is in there on that same side of the road. The Clare Convent is underneath the helicopter at the moment, and Harold's Cross Greyhound Stadium a little behind us to the left as we're looking down.
I wonder what the chasing group are feeling now at this stage. Should they go after him, or how is he? Are they wondering how the heck is he feeling? Will I go after him now? Is it too early? Because I mean, it seems to be coming downhill, so he can obviously let himself go and try and pick up a bit of pace here at this stage. And he's probably wondering, my God, are these going to come and catch me?
Of course, the chasing group, many of them will be going by their splits. They will have their mile splits, some of them written on their hands. They will have predicted what they're going to go through 10, maybe 13 miles in. And they're experts in pace, this chasing group, because they have between them quite a number of marathons run. In experience terms, John Griffin, Marty Dean and Hammy Cox are way up there. Tommy Hughes has also run quite a number of marathons. So experience is the big thing when it comes down to pacing a marathon.
But it's looking like the gap on Tom Jordan is closing. Frank Greeley's words being borne out there. Look at that. There's very much reduced gap now between the chasing group of half a dozen athletes and Tom Jordan. Is he aware that they are almost literally, though certainly metaphorically, breathing down his neck?
Well, he'd be aware actually that he's beginning to tire himself, and that will be enough, I think, to signal that the group will come through, because he's going to know that this group are hanging back. They're strength in numbers and they're feeding off each other. He's in a lonely position out there at the moment. He's just going to be swallowed up, I feel, within the next couple of miles.
And just bearing in mind they've only made 12 miles, not yet 12 miles. There's still a very long way to go.
And needless to remark, if he turns and has a quick look, they'll know he's on his ear, and they'll definitely just pick him up straight away. But they're definitely closing very, very quickly on him.
On to Grove Road by the banks of the canal.
It'll be interesting actually to see if John Griffin or indeed any of the leading group can match the time of last year. The winning time last year was 2:16:02.
That man is really keeping his mind on the job in hand, as indeed he must, because he's got no one to help him. It's all his own work at this stage, and he too is well aware that he is only in the 12th mile of this 10th Dublin Marathon. Approaching Portobello. He'll continue all the way along the banks of the canal now, or this bank of the canal. Look how close they are behind him now. Leeson Street Bridge lock. This, of course, canal that was for so many years a vital artery in the commercial life of the city of Dublin. Famous too for all sorts of other reasons. Poets and songsmiths have drawn inspiration from it, and it's around this point and a little further on that Patrick Kavanagh wrote so much of his verse.
I think the canal is still famous because I'm sure there's many a Dubliner still takes his Saturday dip in the canal.
The distance between leader Tom Jordan and the chasing group of, well, really 5 now, they've dropped the back man there, is reducing all the time, and I should think by the time they come to the next of our fixed cameras, fixed that is to terra firma as opposed to on the helicopter or on the motorbike, which is at Leeson Street Bridge, Tom Jordan may no longer be in the lead.
I think he's definitely going to be swallowed up here. And again, it's one of these things. I was surprised to hear him say a few weeks ago that he wasn't sure about getting the distance. I think if you go out like that, you've got to make a decision before the start that you're going to give it the whole thing.
Ranelagh passed on the right. And they're virtually all together as they approach Leeson Street Bridge. And the lead is now 2 motorbike lengths, if that.
It looks from our aerial position here that it's a group of 5 at the moment.
Well, John Griffin is certainly in the middle of that lot, last year's winner, but I'm looking hard and long and I can't see Hammy Cox's blue. So he must have gone by the wayside.
Well, is that not Hammy with the cap, the man in the cap? He had a cap on early on. Maybe he's blue on front and yellow on the back?
Well, he's confusing us if he is. He's gone into the lead, whoever he is.
He may be changing colours in the sunshine.
The chameleon has taken the lead. We'll identify him for you very shortly now.
John Scanlon's also in that group. He's got the maroon and top and blue shorts. It's John Scanlon from West Limerick. The man with the beard, he'll be easy to pick out when we get down. I think Marty Dean is there too.
And you're absolutely right. Hammy Cox is the chameleon. Blue on the front and yellow on the back.
Just to confuse you, George. And Tommy Hughes, the man from Mahara, or Ballinascreen up that end of Derry, runs for Sparta, and Marty Dean also there.
Cordy there, John Scanlon, one John Griffin.
In fact, John Scanlon, who was with the group there, he had a tremendous run in the Great Scottish Run there last month, and he finished a brilliant third in what was a very, very big event in Scotland. John Scanlon, who's an unemployed man from West Limerick. He comes from a place called Kappa.
Tom Jordan was the leader. He's on the right. Hammy Cox from Greenock on the banks of the Clyde, who's in the lead now.
Hammy is deadly serious about this race. I was speaking to him yesterday, and he made the trip over very specially with the intention of trying to win Dublin. He works as a motor mechanic with the police department in Greenock outside of Edinburgh.
That's Leeson Street Bridge as they progress on down towards Mespel Road and the junction with Bagot Street.
I doubt if they'll be thinking of Patrick Kavanagh's poems along here. Patrick Kavanagh's seat is along this area of the canal. Back to Pat Heffernan and Joey Peppard and David Turnbull from England. Now Pat Heffernan is really in trouble. Joe Peppard, computer man, he's not doing too much computer. That's Joe all in yellow there. He's not doing too much about the computers today. They say the mind's not working like a computer. He's feeling, looks as if he's really feeling the pace. Joe's always known as one of the fittest men in Dublin. Spent all his time training, but he never really seemed to have time for racing. Back up with Marty Dean.
Along the banks of the canal, Grand Parade.
Of course, the leading group now, they're going to be eyeing each other up and figuring out how the tactics are going to go. I think Griffin and Dean particularly will be content to sit there. There's Nullig McIntyre, John Fitzgerald, two men who would have very solid runs. In fact, I'm surprised to see John Fitzgerald gone back so soon.
Actually saw John at about the 5 mile mark up around Cooley Road, and he looked in trouble at that stage. He was dropping off the main group. It's a real surprise. I honestly thought he'd be up much further.
And the bearded Nullig McIntyre just gone through. He's from Mullingar, and he's one of a very, very solid club runner.
Well, this is a very impressive performance by this whole group, not only the leading group, but the others as well. They've left so much between themselves and the rest. That's Bagot Street Bridge, between the two banks there, and on down Haddington Road. About a mile to go, a little under a mile to the halfway point in Bath Avenue. That's our leading group.
Contrast in styles there. Hammy Cox, I know they're all small guys, but he's got quite a long stride, whereas the others are all short, real roadies, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. Very interesting there to see that they're running so close together. Nobody really willing to go out there and really push it hard. They're all watching each other. And Tommy Hughes in particular there, a man who could wear them all down because he is the supreme man in endurance. In fact, Tommy has been known to run a marathon on a Sunday and compete in a 1500 metres track race on a Friday, the following Friday. That's the type of versatile athlete he is.
Back at Leeson Street Bridge, a few from the sidewalks have decided to join in the action.
There's Mayo man Dominic Regan. He's there in the red and green, and Dominic went to see the physiotherapist there in the Mansion House yesterday. He was suffering from shin splints, but they said run and see how it goes. He was second in the Clonliffe 20 there just a couple of weeks back.
Now great support and encouragement for the runners as they make their way through here.
John Callahan from Roscommon, who was second in the half marathon there, so he's way down. I thought he would be up a bit further today. 3359, Roscommon County Council man.
Dublin be proud. Bank holiday Monday, October 1989. Lansdowne Road in the foreground. Pigeon House at the back and Hope beyond. Good morning, Dublin. You're looking great.
Well, you know, while the leading runners are going past down here at Leesa Street Bridge, I have a group of people who have come all the way from the middle of the Midlands in England, from Huncoast. Is that where you are, ladies, from? Yeah. And you're all waiting anxiously for your husbands?
That's right.
Seven of them, isn't there?
Yes.
Seven of them?
Seven, yes.
And when do you expect them to be coming through?
Oh, it's going to be about another, how long?
Another 20 minutes.
Half an hour. They've done some good times this year. Really
Oh,
good
they're
times.
experienced marathon runners, are they?
Well, 6 of them are. One's doing his first marathon today. He's done a few other small marathons, but this is his first big one. But
The others are all quite experienced and really good times. All did the ladies, didn't they?
And when did you come over?
Back up at the front, it's Hammy Cox and last year's winner John Griffin, and they're making their way towards the East Link Bridge. No toll to pay today.
And in fact, John Griffin must think for a minute he's seen double there, because Hammy Cox is almost a replica of the man who ran right beside John Griffin for much of the race last year, Terry Green of Belfast. Terry wore a cap last year. Terry was about the same size, much the same type of a style of runner. And now I think it's going to be very much a race between these two. They're very much suited to each other's style of running. John is prepared to sit back a little bit. Hammy is a good man to run up front. And it's going to be very hard to see anybody pulling those two back. In fact, while we were watching some of the pictures come through there, I noticed that there's a great race developing in the men's over 40 veteran race as well, between two great Cork men, Derry O'Driscoll and John Buckley. And it looks like they're going to have a very tight contest for the men's over 40 veteran title.
But interesting the way this thing has shaped up, really, with Tom Jordan of Wexford, who led for so long but was then finally overhauled on the banks of the canal after just 12 miles in Grand Parade. And now we've gone on another mile or so, and we've two new leaders, Hammy Cox and John Griffin. That's the marina at Ringsend as they approach the toll bridge.
Griffin, of course, will be delighted that the race has developed like this, because here is a man who can set the pace for him. John doesn't like to lead that much, and he's so confident at the moment that at least there's a break of 2. He can be no worse than second if he holds his pace, and if Hammy Cox is able to stay with him as well. The chasing group have now dropped back, the chasing few, and once you get a lead like this at this point of the race, it is very hard to pull back two experienced marathon runners like these pair.
Back at Leeson Street Bridge, the main bunch of the runners are now coming through. There's plenty to enjoy from a spectating point of view if you take up your position on the footpath to watch this marathon go through, because at Leeson Street Bridge they are 12 and a half miles into the event, and the leaders at the moment are a good mile and a bit ahead of them, so there's plenty of running out on the road to be enjoyed.
There's an interesting thing there about the leaders, George, as well. Hammy Cox and John Griffin ran together in Amsterdam a couple of weeks ago, over 10 miles. Hammy finished behind John, about 8 seconds behind him, but at halfway in that race, Hammy was 30 seconds back on Griffin.
There's Jo Groves coming through. It looks like the leading lady. Let's see, will she take anything to drink? No, she hasn't. I wonder if she wise, because later on, all the experts say you should drink early. But she's looking around for something. Is she looking for somebody? Has she got her own special drink? Oh, she's taking a drink. Oh, she's taking something on board. I think she's very sensible. She just wants water. Some of the others are taking Pocari. And if you're not used to these isotonic drinks, they could upset your stomach. Water's very, very easy to take. I'm always amazed at people drinking on the run, because it's the most awkward thing to do. If you spill it, it goes right down your chest, and it's very cold, and you're just nicely warm. It can give you the shivers in your back, and oh, it's a terrible feeling with water like that. But I can't understand how people throw it over their heads to cool them down. I think you'd be better off with a sponge. She's moving each side of the road. She's going to go into right into the edge, try and run less distance, or is she just actually running in the middle of the road, being sensible? And this is Pauline Nolan, still on Leeson Street Bridge. So Pauline has come through very well. As I said earlier on, I thought Pauline was ideally suited for a marathon. I think if she gets around 250, she'll be very pleased.
Back with the leaders, and just making the curve onto the toll bridge, Hammy Cox and John Griffin. And they are moving from the south bank to the north of the Liffey. So John Rogerson's Quay there, and on up the channel to the centre of the city. And that really does look just as it does on the map.
I'm sure that the bridge won't be going up today. Tony McClafferty's organised that, otherwise they could be stuck, or they might have the problem they had in a race in England, a 10-mile race, when they were going, and the railway bridge, the line went. The train was early, supposed to be late. The race started on, but the train came 11 minutes early, and the athletes were stuck.
Well, this is what lies ahead of us for the remainder of the race. Crossing the East Link there, they head off towards Clontarf, then take in one of the loveliest roads in North Dublin, St. Lawrence's Road, onto the Howth Road, head on out towards Raheny, and then it's a left at Raheny, Station Road, past the station, into Edenmore, round past St. Malachy's Football Club, Springdale Road, Tonleggy Road, Malahide Road, through the Artane roundabout, down into Fairview, Fairview Strand then, and past down over Lough Kelly Bridge, on into Ballybock and Portland Row, Sean McDermott Street, Buttbridge, Tara Street, and then up Grafton Street to round it all off.
And there's Elizabeth Bullen. She seems to have gone back to third position, but I think she throws herself around a bit, so she's wasting a fair bit of energy. Very vigorous style of running. But she looks fairly comfortable. She's still able to look around. As Cox, John Griffin looks to be in a slight bit of trouble. Cox has just opened a gap, and John Griffin, always a man with a short stride. It seems to be getting shorter by the second.
Certainly does there, because Hammy Cox seems to have got 5 yards and just a couple of strides there on John. But then again, John is a perfect man for pace. Hammy may be just throwing in a mile or two of up the pace and see how it goes. John will prefer to run even pace. He's not a man that will inject pace into the middle of a race. He prefers to run to his own timetable, and he may be prepared to let Hammy have a go for maybe a mile or two and see what develops.
So there they are, all alone, through Dockland.
John, of course, he's running the corner, running the tangents very well.
I know, John, you're saying John is running the corners very well, but I always think an athlete, when he starts to run in the very inside, the sign of a man getting tired, because you'll automatically, all athletes, no matter what race you're in, will always veer to the left, because it's the shortest. Take the shortest, although he looks as if he's moving back up a little bit again. Maybe he just went through a bad patch there for a minute or two.
I don't think he'd be unduly worried at this stage, but he was telling me in Amsterdam a couple of weeks ago when he raced Hammy Cox that he went out so hard that he set a personal best for 6 miles at the 6-mile mark. Now Hammy came back at him there and pulled back a 30-second deficit, and there was only 8 seconds between them at the finish. John will be keeping that in mind today. I think he would like to be clear if he wants to win the race. He would want to be away from Hammy Cox before the finish, and a couple of miles before the finish at that.
John is also under a little bit of pressure. Remember, he's the man who won today, so he'd be expected to go very well today, whereas Cox has nothing to lose, just down here for the pleasant day in Dublin. Back with Joe Groves again. Looks very nice, very easy way of running. Arms nicely, a bit high up maybe, but she still looks very comfortable at this stage.
Still at Leeson Street, the water and the isotonic drink is being handed out. But way ahead of Leeson Street, over the river and into Clontarf are the two leaders. On the left, John Griffin, the victor in 1989, and on the right, from Greenock in Scotland, it's Hammy Cox. Not quite at St. Lawrence's Road yet, but when they're there, they'll have 9 miles to go.
And I think John is already testing Hammy Cox. He's up there running abreast of him, and he's just putting it up to him now. He says, if you're ready, if you feel that you have it, you go and let's see what happens.
That's exactly what John did last year. Himself and Terry Green were just running along, and then John decided, heck, we'll have a go. It's interesting, John decided we'll move out into the middle of the road. There's less camber out in the middle. Take the middle of the road, John. That's right, direct operations. Let him know you're the man. This is your day. You're not going to let him take this away to Scotland. This is going back to Kerry, where it should be. Been to Kerry already twice.
And I'm sure indeed that John's wife, Rita, she's here in the vicinity of the commentary box. She's going to have some anxious moments now. John is married in Tralee. He's got a daughter, Anna, who's 2.5 years of age. And John, who's age 30, he works down in Tralee. He works as a storeman down in the Clapman textile factory down there.
And this is Elizabeth Bullen. She looks as if she's in a slight bit of trouble at this stage. Lost the smoothness that she had earlier on. You can see there now she looks as if she's in trouble. Her head is dropped. She's watching the ground. You've got to keep your eyes up. I know it's difficult, but you've got to keep them up as we come back to the leaders. Contrast in style there. The short stride of John Griffin, or the longer, more loping stride of the man from Greenock.
They reach the end of this link road and turn right very, very shortly now onto the Clontarf Road, and then it's a couple of 100 yards and they're left into St. Lawrence's Road. That's our camera truck alongside, where those lovely pictures are coming from of the two men in front.
And just there we can see in the top of the picture, it's actually a Viking boat. I've been looking at that for a long time, but it was only yesterday somebody told me it's a Viking boat to celebrate the millennium.
Well, I'm trying to catch up with a man here who's actually doing the marathon on crutches. Hello, how are you doing?
Oh, how are you?
What's your name?
Dominic Gallagher.
Dominic, where are you from?
From Mylock, County Galway.
And are you going to do the whole marathon on the crutches?
Well, I hope so.
It's a bit hard on the old hands.
It's a bit hard on my own hands, all right. But I'll get there.
You will?
I'll get there,
But you're doing well. What sort of a time are you planning to do it in, Dominic?
I've no idea. It'll probably take about 8 hours.
8 hours?
I started at 8.
Well, the best of luck to you, Dominic.
Yeah.
Keep it up. Good man yourself.
Thanks very much.
So more beautiful pictures from the city of Dublin and more beautiful pictures of the effort that's involved in this 10th Dublin Marathon. The first time in Ireland you're seeing live in its entirety a Dublin Marathon, sponsored in 1989 by CDL Colite. More marathon for you after this break.
Only McDonald's can give you such great tasting food with delicious
housing. Make sure your cattle are safe and secure. Dose with System X and lock out worms.
No artificial additives makes your play the supernatural yogurt. Don't dip a spoon into anything less.
With Joker's Delight, the new game from the National Lottery, just match 3 amounts or 2 amounts and a joker, and you could win yourself a king's ransom. Now that's something to smile about.
For the taste of it, real cola taste of it. For the taste of it, Diet Coca-Cola. Just for the fun, just for the shine, just for the taste. Just for the taste of it, sugar-free Diet Coca-Cola.
Fahren Sie die Autobahn noch 70 Kilometer weiter.
Og den tror du man kan kalle blank her.
Ihre Sportgruppe, lassen Sie ein Autogramm holen.
Ik sta te halen, wil je met alle folks?
Nej, nej. Nach links.
Toch wel bokken wochen, die leen zo. Die witje zitje, Olsbedeel hadden ze wie, daar tachter gelogen. Dat is misschien een pijn.
Warm up with CDL, Ireland's largest coal company. CDL coal is no ordinary coal. It's the highest quality, best value and widest range in the country. Try CDL Coalite for a high heat fire without smoke. Just one of our superior quality coals.
CDL quality coal.
We've the news summary on One Now with Michael Murphy.
Good afternoon. Officials in Algeria now say that at least 23 people were killed and almost 300 injured in last night's earthquake. It registered 6 on the Richter scale. Most of the casualties were in the Tipaza region to the west of the capital, Algiers. 4 people died of heart attacks in Algiers, and about 100 others were injured trying to get to safety. A group of Conservative MPs has rejected an attempt by 25 Labour MPs to force all the police officers involved in the original Guildford 4 investigations to be suspended. The Conservatives have tabled an amendment to a Labour motion saying that, as the case is now the subject of an inquiry ordered by the government, it would be prudent to await its findings and any proceedings arising from it, rather than to jump to what they described as intemperate and ill-considered conclusions. The Labour ministers from the 12 EC member states, including the Irish Minister Bertie Ahern, are in Brussels for talks on the Charter of Workers' Rights. Several countries are said to oppose some of the clauses in the Charter. Mr. Ahern is believed to be concerned about a provision which challenges the idea of a factory being a one-union house, but the strongest opposition is expected to come from Britain. Sterling is maintaining its value on the London markets. The Bank of England intervened again this morning, following Friday's instructions issued by the new Chancellor, Mr. John Major, to support the currency in an attempt to avoid another rise in interest rates. The Financial Times 100 index of British shares was up 20 points shortly after business started. It dropped by 47 on Friday. More than 3,300 people are taking part in the 10th Dublin Marathon. Traffic diversions are in operation along the route and delays can be expected. The East Link Bridge has closed and is due to reopen at 2 o'clock. Many roads in the Stevens Green area will remain closed to traffic until late this afternoon. And that's the news for the moment.
A very good afternoon to you. In contrast to the rest of the holiday weekend, it's been a very pleasant day so far over most parts of the country. Virtually ideal conditions for today's Dublin City Marathon and other outdoor events. However, it's not all good news. There will be some showery outbreaks of rain spreading into western areas during the afternoon, and this will extend across the country to all parts later. Now, at the moment, we have a weak ridge of high pressure over the east of Ireland. This is giving quite pleasant conditions, but it is moving eastwards, and off the west coast we have a showery trough. That's also pushing eastwards, bringing showers or outbreaks of rain to western areas. So for the rest of the day, well, there will be some further bright spells over the eastern half of the country, but cloud will tend to increase all the time from the west, bringing outbreaks of rain or showers to western coastal counties. And this showery rain will extend across the country during the rest of the day. There may be some local pockets of heavy rain about. Afternoon temperatures in the range 12 to 15 Celsius, well up to normal. Winds picking up from a south or southwest direction, getting up to force 6, possibly force 7 there along the west coast. Overnight tonight, temperatures dropping in many Midland areas down to 4 or 5 Celsius, so a touch of frost in these parts of the country. Elsewhere around the coast, temperatures that bit higher, winds dropping off to especially overland from a southwest direction. Some further showers, chiefly affecting northern and western coastal counties, good clear spells elsewhere. Tomorrow's temperatures down a bit on today's values, winds continuing quite strong from a south-southwest direction, and weatherwise a mixture of sunshine and showers, some of those showers turning out to be heavy and possibly thundery. That's your weather line for the moment. From me, a very good afternoon to you.
Network 2's Bank Holiday Matinee Supergirl will be starting in just under half an hour at 1 o'clock. Here in One Now, Sports Special continues with marathon coverage and racing from Leopardstown.
And welcome back to our live coverage of the CDL Colite Dublin Marathon. We're looking at the stream of runners past Leeson Street Bridge at the 12-mile mark. They've almost gone halfway on this their big challenge, but way out in front and making their way out the Hoth Road towards Killester are the two leaders, Hammy Cox and John Griffin, leading as they have been doing since just about Leeson Street Bridge. So they have had this all to themselves for quite a while, and we're now looking back at the ladies' competition.
That's Pauline Nolan, and she's gone to second position because just behind 1703 is Elizabeth Bullen, as Pauline getting the drink from the, or using the drink I should say, from one of the many minders. As Pauline comes up, it looks as if Pauline is over the Eastring Bridge area, and we're looking back at somebody taking a drink. Very important at this stage to take water on board.
Well, I tell you what, I'm running down along Leeson Street as quick as I can towards the bridge to catch up with a man here who's dressed up in disguise. Hello, how are you?
How you doing?
What's your name?
Martin Taylor.
Martin, where are you from?
North Strand.
And Martin, it's not very hot running in that gear.
Well, I ran the race before.
Did you?
And I'm enjoying it now better.
And how fast do you think you're going to go?
I'll do around 4.
And are you going to take off the dressing gown for us?
For now. I'll do it for Christine, Claire and Lisa later on.
All right, good man. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Ah, there they are, the leaders. No dressing gowns required for them.
Well, here on the Hoth Road, 18 miles. Nerves now. We're right beside them. I could almost reach out and touch them. They're breathing very comfortably at the moment. The Dubs, though, here certainly getting behind the Kerryman. John Griffin getting tremendous support as they go along. It's hard to tell if either are comfortably, as I say. Hammy perhaps looks under a little more strain at the moment, but John Griffin digging in on his shoulders, looking very comfortable. Dick Hooper just came on there a few moments ago, offering them both a drink. John Griffin declined it. Hammy took it. Perhaps Hammy's face looks as though he's under a bit more stress as they come into Raheny. Big crowd here cheering them. But I would say at this stage, Griffin perhaps more comfortable. He's content to leave Hammy just one shoulder length in front of him. So
that's Raheny. Wouldn't they love it if Dick Hooper were in action there? Just apologise for the breakup in pictures and sound as Des Cahill was reporting from the flatbed truck that's providing our pictures up the front. But bear in mind, we are operating to the limits of the technology that's available. There live pictures coming to you from throughout the city of Dublin on this Dublin City Marathon. And I think that some of the pictures we've seen have been absolutely superb. But we're looking now at the leader in the ladies' class.
She's just heading across the Alfie Byrne Bridge now, just coming up to the 17-mile mark. That's Jo Grove, still from London. She's running way above herself. She hopes to run 2:45. If she keeps going with this, she could be fairly close to it. But we just saw a while ago that Pauline Nolan had gone to second position, and I wouldn't be surprised if Pauline, with her short economical stride, comes up to catch her. We got Pauline Nolan in shot, we have. And Pauline has come through very, very well. I expected Pauline to come through. Typical marathon build, I feel, anyway. And I think that as the race goes on and we head up towards, into Clontarf and up towards Raheny, the slight climb, I think Pauline Nolan will take over.
Yes, she certainly looks superb when she won the Clonlift 20 in September. And she, as you say, has a really economical style. She's slightly built and she's ideally suited to the marathon distance. I think that Joe Grove is beginning to tire. I can see her arm action it's gone a little bit tight, and she's got a bit tight around the shoulders also.
Her head has dropped as well. She's looking at the ground, and that I always feel is a bad sign. Whereas Pauline now looks full of running. She's even pulling away from the fellas that have been with her all the way. So she's really buoyed up by the fact that she can see Joe Grove ahead of her, and she knows that Joe Grove's stride is getting shorter, and she's going for glory. But it's a long way to go yet. We've still got another 8-9 miles to go.
They are rather further ahead, though, the two leaders, John Griffin and Hammy Cox.
And well, I'm trying to catch up here with the Trees for Africa, the Green Goddess. Hello, how are you doing?
Yes, what Green Goddess? Oh, that's not the radio.
What's your name?
Sean O'Sullivan.
Kerry. Where are you from? From Kerry?
Kerry, yeah.
Kerry, and do they know that you dressed up like this for the marathon down in Kerry?
Only my family. I was trying to keep it a secret.
I see. Now listen, tell me, whereabouts in Kerry are you from?
Killorglin, Puckfair. We're used to acting the goat.
I see. All right, we'll give them a big shout down in Killorglin. A big wave. All right, look after yourself. Bye-bye.
Well, I know a man or two from Killorglin in County Kerry. I've never seen one dressed like that. Sean O'Sullivan.
And here we have Hammy Cox and John Griffin. And while we were in at commercial break there, I briefly met Hammy Cox's wife and his father. His wife Jane and his father Bertie were just down from the commentary box, and I had a little bit of disturbing news that would be of interest to John Griffin, I'm sure, at this stage. They told me that Hammy, in his early days as a middle distance runner, he could run 1:55 for the half mile, and that certainly is disturbing news if he's with John Griffin with a mile to go.
I certainly say it would be disturbing, but I don't think John Griffin's going to let him be there with him, with a mile to go. As we head back, look at Pauline Nolan. She's really looking very comfortable at this stage as she comes across the Alfie-Byrne Bridge, just then to head onto the seafront in Clontarf, and then head up towards the Hoth Road, up Lawrence's Road, up onto the Hoth Road. She's being paced there. Somebody obviously with her, giving her drinks, and she's moving through well there. She's just after passing one of the fellas, so that's really a good sign that she's beginning to run now at this stage. And I think this is the distance that we are going to see the best of Pauline Nolan in the years to come. She's tackling the race, the distance at least, at a good age. She's 28 years. She's tried track. She just doesn't like it, she told me. And she doesn't like the cross-country either. It doesn't suit her. It's too mucky for her.
And she has done her homework very well for this race. In fact, just about a week ago, she arrived at my door looking for a map of the course. She was going to go right around it on a Sunday morning, see all the tough spots, the easy spots, and pick how she was going to run her race.
Just saw Ursula knocked her in just on the bike there on the back of the picture, and Ursula, another club mate and a great friend of Pauline. The two of them go running a fair bit together. And Ursula's another girl who could bring marathon running in Ireland to the fore once again for the women.
Pauline, of course, she's coached by the BLE National Director of Coaching, Jim Kilty. And up front in the men's race, in fact, Hammy Cox is coached by a man called Joe Haverin from Belfast, who's coaching some of our top athletes here in the south nowadays.
Back with the leaders, and this is the area that some people were complaining about. This is concrete now. There's about a mile and a half of concrete, and this can affect. Oh, there's a change in the women's race. I was saying there when they came onto the bridge, Pauline looked good. Now this is Pauline. She's putting in an effort, and she's just left Joe Groves, and she's running with some of the fellas from Usheen there, 2317. But Pauline looked good. It'll be interesting to see will Joe Groves try and sit in behind her and get dragged along. But then Pauline has got to keep the pressure on now at this stage to get away. And I think that if she keeps it on, another 200, 300 yards, and they turn up to Lawrence's Road, my goodness, I should know that. And there's a slight drag. And Pauline, you've just got to keep working on it, and we'll keep the title in Dublin this year.
She certainly looks very, very composed at this point. And again, the 20-mile victory that she had in the Clonlift 20 in September is going to stand for her at this point. She knows she could get the 20, and she's definite she can get the 26, I'm sure, at this point now.
3:17 with her there, Ronnie Fitzroy, the Dublin runner, and we've 6:75 as well. 16:75, I beg his pardon, in close attendance as well. 16:75 is Tom Trainer, one of the English runners. Those are the leaders in the 1989 Dublin Marathon. Hammy Cox from Greenock in Scotland and John Griffin from down there in Kerry.
Down on Leeson Street. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Hello.
What's your name?
Carol O'Brien from Cork. And Rose Stevens. We're both from UCC.
And Rose Stevens, and you're both from UCC.
Yes.
And who are you running for? UCC Running Club.
UCC Athletic Club.
And how are you enjoying it? You're 12 miles in at this stage.
Thanks be to God. We've 12 behind us.
And how soon do you think you're going to finish?
I don't know. It's too soon to say that yet.
Isn't it a beautiful day in Dublin?
Are we lucky, yes?
Oh, you are.
Are you enjoying it yourself?
I am, yes, if I can keep up the pace with you. Enjoy the rest of the run.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Through Raheny they go. It's still the same two in front, and with quite a margin to spare, John Griffin and Hammy Cox, and that's the clock that accompanies the leading athletes to tell them precisely, tell the crowds precisely how long they've been on the road.
I would say Griffin looks the stronger runner at this point as well, George.
As we meet Pauline Nolan just coming onto the Holt Road, and it's got to climb up now to Raheny. She looked very good there. John Griffin, I think, has been testing Cox the last mile or so. If you've been watching them there and the music was playing, John was just, you could see nearly the grit between his teeth. He's just watching now to see how far Cox has dropped behind him as they come onto the Malahide Road, just coming down there by Chanel College.
Cox is hanging now by the proverbial thread because he's got to keep Griffin in his sights. If he lets that gap open anymore, he's going to be out of contact. If he loses contact with Griffin at this point, he can wave his chances goodbye, even if he has a fast finish.
Pauline Nolan enjoying the scenic Holt Road, beautiful trees along the Holt Road, but it's an uphill climb, this part of it.
Well, is this John Griffin making his move? He's certainly put a little bit of distance between himself and Hammy Cox, around about the 20-mile mark, so just over 6 to go. John Griffin from Tralee does indeed open up the gap on Hammy Cox. They've been together since Grand Parade, which was around the 12-mile mark, shoulder to shoulder for 8 miles, and now, with 6 to go, Griffin has made his move. Frank Reilly's prophetic words that he did look the stronger.
And I think you see the fluency in his running now. Once he's clear and on his own, he becomes an even more fluent runner than he was up to now. You can see that Hammy Cox is struggling. Hammy indeed could be swallowed up yet. I wouldn't be surprised to see Marty Dean come through. He's an expert in picking off men at this stage in the race.
We're coming to a roundabout now. I wonder is there any temptation for Hammy Cox to kind of go straight across the roundabout and try and get back up to John. I don't think he's going to do it. There's too many people around there. Look at the cones. They're sending them the wrong way. But definitely, I think Griffin has got it now. He's got the bit between his teeth. And he did the same kind of thing to Terry Green last year. They were coming down the Malahide Road, and John kept testing him. But Green broke. Green didn't break as early as Cox has broken this year. Cox's stride is gone completely. I think Hammy Cox can wave goodbye to this race today anyway.
Well, it could be that Artane is the place that Griffin has made his telling mark. Move.
As we look at Pauline Nolan, running very comfortably. She's still putting it in though. She's got to make sure she gets well away from Joe Groves as they're passing the shopping centre there in Killester. That entrance there would bring you up to the dart station. Temptation, no doubt, to go in and get the dart and come back into town the quick way. Well, they've got to go up via Raheny first.
Of course, at this stage, local knowledge is going to be a big help for Pauline Nolan. She knows the course inside out. She knows how far she's got to run. She knows every step of the way, and that's got to be a big help for her.
Well, now I've been slowed down to a walk, or at least a little bit of a trot, by Nurse Duckett. Who is Nurse Duckett?
She's one of the characters out of Catch-22, if you remember.
From Catch-22? And you don't look remotely like her.
She used to look after Yossarian, and she was very kind to him and things like that.
I don't remember her moustache.
Well, I was on some drugs lately, and this is just one of the side effects, you see.
Tell me something, who is Nurse Duckett in real life?
Well, this I don't know. We'll have to ask Joseph Heller, I'm afraid.
I see. So in other words, you're not going to tell me who you are?
Well, I'm Jerry Conlon from Marino.
Okay. Come on, Jerry.
Bye.
It's Bullen, John Tracy's twin sister, who's still battling on up the Holt Road past Killester Church there, St. Bridget's Killester. She's some way off Pauline Nolan, who is running a spanking race to lead the ladies.
Yeah, I think Pauline's running very well. And Liz looks very, very pressed there. as we look back at the back markers, and they're taking, this is the art now, I mean, to make sure that this doesn't go all over the place.
But that's what marathons are about, isn't it? It's not just about the big battle up ahead. There are others down the back. It's worth somebody over from Liverpool to take part. Joe Todd from Huyton. Harold Wilson's old constituency. Remember? Former Prime Minister across the water. Well, he's down to a walk as well himself.
Absolutely. But there's no walking about John Griffin. He's striding out there confidently. And he certainly has made that gap even wider at this stage. Hemi Cox is in trouble, and as I said, I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody come up on Hemi Cox, because he has gone back and he must be in trouble at this point in the race.
Back is Elizabeth Bullen, and that's Eric Hayward. She's just passing Eric Hayward. Eric, a man who's run 2:41 in his time, formerly a long jumper with Denora Harriers. But Liz Bullen looks as if she's beginning to move a bit again. She was in trouble coming across the Eastlink Bridge, but heading up the Hoth Road now, she's coming in towards Raheny. She looks as if she's recovered slightly.
Up ahead of all this, of course, we have more action. It's not all about the front runners, not all about even those down the back who are fighting their own personal battles, but we're on Stephen's Green. The wheelchair event is about to conclude in victory for the hot favourite Chris Hallam from Wales, Cumbran, crossing the line to victory in the wheelchair event. And he has been on the road for something around the 2-hour mark. But a brilliant performance by the wheelchair victor, Chris Hallam, taking the title to Wales.
And Griffin goes on with his relentless pace at the moment. John Griffin, of course, came up with a great crop of juniors back in the year 1978. He was on an Irish team that placed 6th in the world cross country, and people like Dave Taylor and people like Brendan Quinn, people who went on to represent Ireland at the highest level along with him, they were all on that team, a great crop that came up in that particular year.
Still coming down the Malahide Road. It's John Griffin in front. Considerable distance.
And it's Pauline Nolan again, looking fairly comfortable there, and she's heading up. She's just coming into Raheny village, and I'm sure she'll get a great cheer. Raheny has always been a great place for athletes. I suppose it's the fact that one of the local building society managers is also a well-known runner by name Dick Cooper, of course, and no doubt that they're going to give Pauline a tremendous reception as she goes. She looks a bit tireder now at this stage, but once she turns,
well,
goes
I'm just
over,
about to be joined here by Brian Turrell. Brian, how are you doing? How's the run going?
Quite happy.
Is the cape interfering with your style?
Not actually. No, I'm used to wearing all heavy gear now and running marathons.
Yeah.
Quite happy. I'm getting good response all along the line. Quite happy.
You don't feel like flying at any stage, do you?
Not really. People keep asking me, where's Robin? And I say, he's out doing a nixer. Keep them happy. But later on in Raheny, I'll be meeting young Batman. The little 5-year-old will be me. I'll be receiving him at Raheny.
All right, Brian, well, have a good run. Enjoy the rest of it. Look after yourself. Cheers.
And and the relentless pounding of the Dublin streets goes on as John Griffin from Tralee comes down past Marino Mart to turn into Fairview and then on into Fairview Strand.
And indeed, John is really used to running on his own. He does most of his training down in Tralee, all on his own. But this morning he told me for the last 3 or 4 weeks, a friend of his, Donica O'Mahony from North Cork, he has helped him an awful lot with the last 3 or 4 weeks preparation, especially doing interval 1,000 metres and mile runs. But John trains on the long cold Kerry nights during the winter. He puts in miles and miles on the roads around Kerry, and here's the fruits of it today on the roads around Dublin.
He had a great support from the locals in Malahide.
Sheila Champion and her sister Dorothy McLennan from England. Sheila is from Lower Kimmage Road, and they're 54 years of age, the two of them. They ran Berlin Marathon just about 6 weeks ago. They ran in Berlin. They ran together there. And they only took up running, believe it or not, about 8 years ago. Sheila, which I think she's the one on the left, she's also highly accomplished gymnast, and she's also very heavily involved in swimming. Her sister, Dorothy McLennan, she lives in London, worked for Board Fáilte here in Dublin for many years, and the two of them are very much fun runners.
Well, now I have the twin sisters down here, Sheila and Dorothy. Now, are you the oldest twin sisters running in this, do you know? Or the only?
We're the oldest in this race, but we're also the oldest twins in the world running marathons.
Are you?
We hold a world record.
Well, aren't you absolutely fantastic?
These were not.
You're not?
No, we're the same as everyone else.
Well, now you're halfway there, 12 miles into it.
That's great.
How do you feel about it so far?
Oh, great. We're lovely and fresh. We did Berlin just a month ago.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Well, enjoy the rest of it.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
In fact, Sheila was telling me there before the race today that Dorothy is the faster of the two, and the reason she says that that's the case is because Dorothy trains in London with men. She has those to help her on with when she's pacing in her training. So Sheila here runs with the Sports World group up in McDowlings in Bushy Park, and she trains mostly with the women. So I think they're gonna finish together today.
John Griffin is looking exceedingly fresh at the front, isn't he? Des Cahill is watching him from his shoulder.
Yes, John Griffin here getting calls from me. John, you're still 35 yards in front. You're holding that. He's giving John pace notes as he's going along. He's holding it. Hammy Cox did close the gap, definitely. At one stage, John, I would say, had a lead of a good 50 to 60 yards. Hammy closed it down to maybe 30 yards, but John is stretching out again. He's been keeping in touch with us, and he is stretching that lead again. He's running very comfortably. He shouldn't have too much to worry about because he's maintaining that steady pace, looking very comfortable, George. I would say he's stretching his lead again, maybe out to 40 yards again. John is stretching the lead, George.
So it's looking very much odds on, second in a row for the man from Tralee, John Griffin, who had an outstanding performance last year. He took the lead along with Hammy Cox, overhauling Tom Jordan at the 12-mile mark on the banks of the canal, Grand Parade. And then he made his move in Artane, and Hammy Cox was unable to respond. That's Ballybock, Croke Park in the distance behind the houses in Summerhill and on down towards the conclusion of the race in the centre of Dublin on St. Stephen's Green.
I'm surprised Hammy Cox hasn't lost much more distance at this stage. He seems to be holding it from what Des Cahill says to us. So it's going to be interesting to see, is Hammy Cox, has he really shot his boat, or will he be able to come back at John? Although John looks so full of running at this stage, I doubt it.
Of course, it's possible to have a bad patch in a run like this, and many runners can go through maybe 2 or 3 miles, hold on, and then find renewed energy and get back at the leader. Now, I don't know if Hammy Cox can do that at this stage, but if he were to come back at Griffin, he certainly would still be a danger because he is a fast man. He has a lot of speed in his legs, even if it's at the end of a marathon. But I think John is running far too fluent to be threatened by anybody at this stage.
There's Jo Groves, and I think she's going to be overtaken by Liz Bullen, who seems to have recovered slightly from the bad patch she had earlier on. The films broke up there a bit.
The scene now as we look down on Hammy Cox as he makes his way along Summer Parade, Portland Row. Sorry about the breakup we're having from time to time in the pictures, but all of this being linked back to a central point, all done without wires. And obviously the intrusion of the foliage, which is still around in the autumn time, and the tall buildings and so on in the centre of Dublin, can pose a problem or two along the way. But there's a picture of a man content, John Griffin.
One wonders what's going through the minds of the two women who are in this vicinity here. Jane Cox is, she's only just down here from the commentary box. Rita Griffin is somewhere around here as well. And they're watching, both of them watching their husbands running in today's event.
Well, we've actually slowed down to a little bit of a walk here because I'm joined by my namesake, Jerry Kelly.
Correct, Jesse.
Jerry, are you the legs hurting you a bit?
A little bit, yes, but this always happens at the halfway stage. So taking a breather between now and the 13th mile, and see how it goes from there.
You're going to get going again?
I am, yes.
So what are you going through at the moment now? I mean, is this getting sore? Is it gone beyond a little bit of a joke?
It is actually, yes. Well, anything over 10 miles does take its toll. But I have done the previous 9, and I'd just like to make it 10th.
Are you going to make it?
I will make it, definitely.
All right, Jerry, good man. Best of luck.
So we're approaching the final stages of this 10th CDL Colite Dublin Marathon, and it's John Griffin, the Kerry man from the town of Tralee, who is really piling on the pressure once again. He made his break at Artane. Hammy Cox done his best to respond, but Hammy Cox hasn't been able to get back at him. And it's been John Griffin who's been all alone beside that flatbed truck with our camera and Des Cahill aboard watching the action. John Griffin estimating a time of 2 hours and 14 minutes, which would give him another 11 minutes to run.
Well, we hear on the clock at the finish, George, we have just 2 hours, 5 minutes and 13 seconds up at the moment. So John is, if anything, he's piling on the pace even further at this stage. Very hard to know from the positioning of the camera at the moment just what his actual finishing time is going to be, but I think it's going to be close to last year's 2:16.
Down through the centre of Dublin, he's on Gardiner Street now. When he reaches the bottom of Gardiner Street, he has the Custom House in his sights. You go round the Custom House and then across the Liffey over Butt Bridge into Tara Street, a little loop taking in Townsend Street, Lombard Street, Westland Row, and then doing something that would delight every rush hour car driver in Dublin, against the traffic up a one-way street, Lincoln Row and Nassau Street. That was Hammy Cox just taking the corner into Gardiner Street, while up ahead John Griffin is well down the same street.
John Griffin has actually extended his lead. I don't think there's any danger of being caught. And remember, at this stage in the race last year, he was also on his own, so he knows exactly where he has to go, and he's not going to be intimidated by the fact that there's another mile, maybe 2 miles to go, so he knows where and how much his effort he has got to pace himself over the last part of the race, and I think he'll come home first.
I think he will, and in his familiar headband, that headband, the sweatband on his head, has been it's been a feature of his running since even his junior days. He has worn that.
A little under 2 miles to go for John Griffin at this stage. We look down upon him rounding the corner in front of the Custom House. You'll never do this on a biker in a car normally, but John Griffin in the Dublin Marathon can do it. Past Liberty Hall, across Butt Bridge, and then, as I say, the little loop that will eventually bring him into Nassau Street, along the wall of College Park, and up into Grafton Street and the Green.
And I'd say there'll be some celebrations tonight in the Burlington, because there are about 20 people running in the race from St. John's Athletic Club in Tralee. Their Tralee Jogging Club are up as well, and it's going to be a big Kerry night, I think.
And here's Pauline Nolan just coming along there in Coolock. She looks full of running still, but she's really got to concentrate now, because this is the real hard part of the race, coming towards the mythical wall. And just past Cadbury's, and I'm sure there's a few of them there who thought maybe I should go into Cadbury's, see if I can get a couple of old bars of chocolate to keep me going.
John Griffin is not too far away from his goal. And here at Stephen's Green, another wheelchair athlete completes the course. It's quite astonishing, really, that the crowds, they know when this event is going to finish, and they come out to fill the pavements. Come tried to fill the pavements to cheer them home, and they've arrived just in time to see the conclusion of the wheelchair event. Kevin Breen just going through. But back to the elite runners, and the leader of those into Townsend Street is John Griffin.
I think John looks very tired at this stage. I think the stride has shortened. Would you think so, Frank?
I think the stride is shortened all right, but the resolve is still there. I think he's got his sights set now on the finish. And he'll certainly be relieved when he gets across the finish line here, because he's probably going through a tight patch at the moment, but he knows he has a margin, he has a cushion there that he can hold on to the finish, and I don't think anybody is going to bear down him at this point. I'm sure John is thinking things now like, this is a good race, will it be good enough maybe to get him automatic selection for the European Championships next year, or will he have to run in the trial? Certainly it's a great record to finish twice in a row in Dublin, and he is the holder of the national title here, which he won in the summer of this year down in Tralee.
2 hours 9 minutes on the clock at the moment.
And we're going to have a new winner of the women's race, because it looks, for all intents and purposes, as if Pauline Nolan from Dublin City Harriers, based in the Shankill area, is going to take the women's event. As we look back from the air, and I think we're back looking at John Griffin. Yes, we are.
Just turning the corner off Townsend Street into Lombard Street. Break up in the pictures here. Again, apologies for that, but we're in among tall buildings here, and it's difficult to get the signal back out up off the flatbed truck to bounce it back down again. But picture's looking good now, all right, as is John Griffin, with just a mile to go. Up Lombard Street, across Pierce Street into Westland Row, and past St Andrew's Church there, and then it's into Lincoln Place, Nassau Street, and the final climb, Grafton Street.
And I think John is feeling pressure, certainly with a capital P here, but he's keeping the head down, he's keeping his flow. It's very important that he keeps his rhythm at this stage, because that's the first thing in a tired runner. If they lose rhythm, it tends to slow them down completely. But John, I think he's just going to keep that rhythm flowing. He is slowing down somewhat, but he's not worried about the time now. He doesn't care if it took him 2.5 hours to cross the finish line. He's going to be a winner.
He's really gritting his teeth here. You can see him, he's putting his head down and then gradually bringing it back up. And also too, I think, I know I'm always saying this, but this is a bit of a climb up Western Row. I'm a kind of person who cycles around Dublin, and I know all the damn hills that are around the place. And this is a little bit of a climb here. You can see John, he's really digging in. Look at the arms. The fluency has gone from his arms. He's turning into Lincoln Place just now. But I don't think he's going to be caught by Hammy Cox unless he absolutely has to walk up Grafton Street.
The only problem ever at this stage is cramp, because cramp can really set in a tired runner. It has happened Jerry Kiernan before. It has happened several of the world's top athletes. If cramp comes, there's nothing you can do about it. But I think John, he has done the conditioning work. He's going to be able to hold on for this last vital part of the race. And he knows that when he turns into the finish area, it's going to be a long reward, a long rest for a couple of weeks. And it's going to be all worthwhile. All the effort, all the struggle is going to be very, very much worthwhile.
That's College Park on the right of the picture there. Leinster Street, they move along and into Nassau Street. And a trip that, as I was saying, nobody else is really able to make because it's against the one-way system, but no traffic in there today. One of the busiest streets in the centre of Dublin, devoid of traffic, and John Griffin's own place today as he leads home the 1989, the 10th Dublin Marathon. He just has to make it to the end of Nassau Street to turn around up into Grafton Street, up the paved area, past the famous names, the Switzers, the Brown Thomases, and all the way up to the top and into Stephen's Green, two sides of the green, into Earlsfort Terrace to finish in front of the National Concert Hall. John Griffin is on his way to victory. Library building there of Trinity College to the right, just passing the end of Dawson Street, is John Griffin now.
In fact, one of the things that may have helped him this year, he didn't race very much at all. In fact, he picked his races in very expert fashion this year. He focused on Dublin, I believe, all year. He just said, I want to get back to Dublin, I want to win back my title. It's the big race. The CDL Colite Dublin Marathon is the one to win in 1989, and he's doing exactly what he set out to do when he went to the line this morning.
into Grafton Street, the Wonderland. Magic in the air in the shape of our helicopter, and magic on the ground in the person of John Griffin, who has really commanded this Dublin City Marathon from Artane in Dublin 5, right back through the centre of the city, and now up Grafton Street in Dublin 2. At the top of the hill is Stephen's Green, and then it's two sides of the green, and he's home. Past Brown Thomas on his left and Switzer's on his right, all the way up this incline, which he won't be noticing at all now, I shouldn't think, because he knows there's precious little of this marathon left.
He looks very tired. He's right in at the left. He's not going to do any extra, not going to run any extra yardage, but he looks extremely tired. But once he knows when he gets to the top of Grafton Street, he's got about a half a mile or thereabouts to go, so he's going to be a happy man when he reaches the top of this minor climb.
He's going to be absolutely delighted, because he has done what Dick Cooper is the only man to have done this, to have won 2 Dublin marathons in a row. Sadly, Dick, because of injury, wasn't unable to go to the start today, but John Griffin is something to be extremely proud of.
He's unlikely to better his time of last year, but John Griffin is unquestionably going to win this as he passes the new St. Stephen's Green Centre and moves into the green. 2 hours, 16 minutes and 2 seconds was his time last year. 2:14:26 so far. John Griffin all alone and into St. Stephen's Green North. And he just has 2 sides of the green to complete, and the title will be his again.
Yes, he'd probably be outside last year's time, but he may be a minute or so outside it, but that's not going to matter one iota to John Griffin today. John isn't interested in time. The main thing he's interested in is that he's got one long margin on Hammy Cox. He's broken that spirit of a great man from Scotland, and here he is on his own, going to win for the 2nd time.
Stephen's Green in front of the park, one of the finest squares in Europe, and he's now approaching the top of Kildare Street. He then passed the Shelbourne Hotel, and now he can afford to look and see that all the way back there is no sign of another runner. Hammy Cox hasn't made it into the green. Past the Shelbourne, round the corner at the Bank of Ireland, and into St. Stephen's Green. The magnificent Georgian facade of St. Stephen's Green east looks down upon him as John Griffin from Tralee in the Kingdom of Kerry heads for home. The final straight, estimating a time of 2:14. He's a little outside that, but so convincing has been his victory that he'll not really mind about the time today.
And the Kerry football team may be going through a bad patch at the moment, but certainly John Griffin is restoring great honour to the kingdom.
The sun beams down on John Griffin, 30 years of age, from Tralee in County Kerry. Victor last year. This year, he and Hammy Cox overhauled Tom Jordan on Grand Parade just 12 miles into the race. And then in Artane, with 5 to go, he took the lead himself, and he was never challenged after that. And the Dublin crowd rises to salute the Kerry man. It's John Griffin from Tralee to win for the 2nd time in a row the CDL Colite Dublin Marathon, and his time 2 hours, 16 minutes and 44 seconds. The national marathon champion adds the title to the one he won last year as well.
And it's some consistent running. He's only just seconds, and about a half a minute off what he ran last year. And here comes Hammy Cox now into the picture. Hammy, who ran such a tremendous race, just didn't have it to hold John Griffin when he made his move, but he's still running a time that's going to be well better than his 2:19 best time. He's going to run somewhere around 2:18. It's going to be a personal best. I'd say he's going to come back to Dublin again.
John Griffin back in the bosom of his family, the champion in Dublin again.
There he is with his daughter Anna, who's 2.5. His wife Rita is there to greet him as well, and it's a great day for the Griffins of Tralee.
Second man is very tired looking, but I'm surprised he's actually held on so well. I wonder will he actually make it. His legs look as if they're about to buckle. He's really in bad way, but it just shows the resolve of the athlete as he goes coming up towards the line now. Hammy Cox taking 2nd position. Will he break 2:18? No. What a great run.
Hammy Cox at least has the satisfaction of a personal best. And here comes the Medical Express himself, Dr. Marty Dean. Here he comes in third place, a man who was second here in 1987.
Marty, who took a year and a half off because the studies only started back running last January, so I think he's done very well. But I wonder, looking at Marty, he ran a marathon some 6-7 weeks ago. He ran 2:19, and I wonder, is he still feeling that? I don't think he's going to be below 2:20 today, but I would say that if he could have been higher, when you see what he's doing here, if he hadn't run the Humber Marathon beginning of September, but still a very good run from Dean. He looks pretty tired too.
Yes, the Humber Marathon had to take its toll on Marty. He said he only ran through it just to get a marathon under his belt, but I think he'd be a sorry man that he ran it now.
I don't think there's any such thing as running straight through a marathon.
Former winner, of course, of his own Belfast City Marathon, and a very popular figure in the city of Dublin as well. But Hammy Cox has already done the business and can pause for refreshment. Marty Dean isn't that far away from a similar mouthful. And the crowd are giving him a cheer as he makes his way into the finishing straight.
Marty wasn't too interested in what time he did. He was more interested in trying to get a fast time. He was hoping for about 2:16. One of the cerebral palsy athletes comes through.
And John Creedon there coming in on the cerebral palsy division of the marathon. John is a very familiar figure here in Dublin, has been in many of the Dublin marathons.
Marty Dean reaches the balloons and knows that it'll soon be over for him. And a third place in this, the 10th Dublin Marathon.
In fact, Marty had a very interesting past. He started out as a teacher, later on went on to study medicine, and about a year and a half ago qualified as a doctor. He works in the casualty department of the Royal Victoria Hospital in Belfast. He's married with 2 children.
Marty wasn't too worried where he finished today, because he said no matter where he finished, he'd be going off to a local hostelry for some of the famous Dublin brew.
Nobody as yet in the green in the finishing straight. Marty Dean is third. Now we'll go out and have a look at the leading lady.
And it's still Pauline Nolan, and she's been helped along by number 333, Joe Murphy from Cork. Now Joe will be encouraging her all the way. Pauline looks fairly comfortable still at this stage. She's coming down the bottom of the Malahide Road, I think, at this stage. Turning into Fairview Strand. She won't have time to look at the flowers that are normally in Fairview Strand, or in Fairview Park, I should say. Great credit to Dublin Corporation. It always looks fabulous, but at this stage of the year, there's not many flowers.
Well, now I've got Marcella McDermott and Bridget. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well.
Things have slowed down a little bit. I believe the winners are past the line implied.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've got a long way to go now. You're halfway there.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think?
Great. We know. We feel good.
do you?
Very good, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to go all the way.
Oh, the whole, oh God, sure.
Oh, yeah, well, you started, so you might as well finish.
Oh, yeah, yes, we usually always finish. It's just I had an injury for the last 3 weeks, so I'm just taking it easy in case it comes at me again. And the physiotherapist said, take it easy.
All right, well,
so I'll finish it.
we're with you all the way.
Thank
All right, bye-bye.
Into the final straight for Pat Heffernan from Tipperary. We're looking here at the 4th and 5th placers in this race.
Indeed, Pat is a former Irish national marathon champion, and he's having a solid run today. He's not going to be over pleased with his time, but it's a good solid run from a good club athlete.
And behind him, Peter O'Donoghue from Whitehead in County Antrim.
Number 21 there is Kevin Vos from Blackpool. He ran 2:27 last year. He looks as if he's really going to try and catch Peter Donoghue, but I don't think he will. And it's Pat Heffernan comes across the line. Pat, who seemed to suffer early on, looks very, very tired at this stage. Farmer from County Tipperary.
He certainly made a brave effort early on. He was in the chasing, the early pack that was up front.
And Kevin Vos has indeed overtaken Peter O'Donoghue to take the 5th place ahead of him.
These are all solid, very solid club athletes. Men who would put in tremendous amount of training, all running under 2:30. Here's John Fitzgerald, a man that we thought might be up there in the top 4 or 5. John is a male nurse from Clonmel and has run very well internationally for Ireland. In fact, he was on the Irish cross-country team for the international this year.
John lost the pack at about the 5-mile mark, so he was always in trouble from early on. So I think he's done very well to finish where he is today. He looked as if he was in trouble there just at Drimna, so I mean, there's a long way to go from Drimna. You've got to go right round. John doesn't look too distressed. He's time to look at his watch and see what time he's doing, but I'd say he'd be very disappointed.
He will, because he's off his best time. He's a good bit off his best time today. But he's got the cross-country scene coming up, the season coming up. He made the team last year for the World Cross Country. He'll be setting his sights on cross-country now for into February and March of next year.
A weary man coming up the green to finish here.
So John Fitzgerald comes in, that will make him in 7th place. And we still, of course, have several other issues to be decided in the other classifications. John Fitzgerald is the man
Last year, actually, John ran 2:19:31. It'll be interesting. He's a good bit outside this year.
This must be the longest part of the green, the longest part of the race. You think you're there, you turn around the corner and you see, my God, there's more than 300 or 400 metres to go, and God, you think you'll never come to the end of it. And John Fitzgerald has that look about him. Will he ever get to the end? But he's just there.
In fact, George just said he finished 7th. He has actually repeated the placing that he finished last year. He was 7th also in 1988.
And now they begin to arrive thick and fast in the green. Let's rejoin Jerry Kelly.
Well, things have changed quite dramatically down here in Lee Street Bridge. The lads are beginning to clean up. Brendan, just come back here for a second for me now. Tell me, how did it go? How many people went through,
Well,
do you
we
think?
were very pleased. We had 5,000 cartons and all between water and Picari, and we got rid of every one of them. And I think we managed to service all the runners that came through.
And there seems to be quite a bit of water around the streets. Did most get into their mouths, or is it all over them?
No, a lot of it went askew always. We had to actually punch the carton in a particular way, as I'm sure you saw earlier on, that it had to be squeezed into their mouth. So what happens is they tend to take half the carton and discard it, because they don't want to be carrying any extra weight, obviously.
All right, Brendan, well done and a good job.
Okay, Jerry.
All right.
Belgian athlete coming through there, Jan van Tieren.
O'Callaghan from Roscommon. He recovered well. He was way off the pace at one stage. He'd be pleased with that.
In fact, when John finished 2nd in the Guinness Half Marathon, many people thought that he'd be figuring somewhere like this in the CDL Colite Dublin Marathon, and I think he's going to be happy with the solid performance. John is from Roscommon Town.
Let's go back out. So there's the leader of the ladies. still out on the road, Gardner Street. She hasn't too far to go yet.
Pauline, as I said earlier on, the girls are always surrounded by a few fellas, and really I think the girls have a slight advantage when crowd of fellas like that, because you feel bad and you feel your head dropping. One of the lads is always going to say, oh come on, we've only got so far to go, and most of these fellas are running within themselves, so therefore they will be feeling slightly more comfortable than Pauline might be, so they'll keep her going all the way. And she turns, coming down, just turning into Killarney Street, actually coming down Portland Road, so she's in the last 3 miles of the race, still looking very, very comfortable.
And there's Ray McManus, famous sports photographer, Sports File Agency, all the big sporting events in Ireland and indeed abroad with Irish teams. I've never seen him look like that before.
Things were safe back down here on Leeson Street. We have the Indians. Hello, how are you?
Very, very good, and I'm feeling great.
Where are you from?
Clondalkin.
Clondalkin?
Yes.
And what do you do dressed up like that?
Well, I'm doing this for charity, and it's nice to get out and make people smile, isn't it?
Absolutely. And do you think you're going to finish it?
This is my 7th
marathon?
Yes.
And have you always dressed up like
Always,
this?
yes.
As an Indian?
And I do.
Where did you get the gear?
Well, I got the headdress in America.
Yeah.
And the shield, see that?
Oh, I see. Oh, look at that, yes, I see. All right, and tell me something, do the people in Clondalkin know that you dress up like this?
Indeed, they do, yes, yes.
Good man. What is your name?
James.
James.
Yes.
All right, James, well, listen, have a good
Yeah,
run,
okay,
or walk, or whatever you're going to do.
Thank you.
All right, look after yourself.
I'll see you again. Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
It's Pauline Nolan again. Pauline, of course, is her first marathon, so she doesn't really know what she's letting herself in for. So they always say the first marathon is the easiest. So all Pauline's got to do now is to keep the concentration going, and hopefully she'll be the first across the line. And we'll have a Dublin winner of the Dublin Marathon.
And I believe we just saw the first veteran cross the line. As far as I can see from the finishers, Jerry O'Driscoll not only won the over 40, but he's a man who's over 50 himself. The general manager of CMP Dairy in Cork. He passed over the line just a few seconds ago.
It's John Gethens from Sligo.
In fact, the veteran race here was expected to be a very close contest, because Michael Roach, the man who was second last year, he was ready to go to the line up to almost the very start this morning, but he had to pull out because of a heavy cold. But it looks like Jerry O'Driscoll has taken the over 40 title. That is as far as we can gather at this point.
And there's a very pleased man, John Gethin, crossing the line. We look back down the green. Somebody there checking the watch. Maybe they're so tired they can't see. You'd have to have a second look at it.
Tom Quinn from Lurgan in County Armagh has completed his Dublin Marathon. Took part in the event most recently in 1985. He's predicting a time of 2:30, and he's not too far away, 2:32. That's Tom Quinn from Lurgan.
Some of these athletes are amazing, actually. They tell you they're going to do 2:30 and they might do 2:30 in a few seconds. It's absolutely amazing the way they can absolutely pace themselves spot on. It's great.
Tommy Quinn coming home and finding the extra energy to give it a bit of a burst towards the line. Highly commendable performance.
The old cheer always helps you to find the extra gear, you know, really have a go at it. We look back down at Butt Bridge and it looks as if we've got Pauline Nolan coming across there into the last 2 miles, so if she continues her pace, she'll certainly be under the 3 hours. Running in the blue of DCH. Pauline always runs in the blue. Maybe it's the blue of Dublin, being a Dubliner. From the county though, so we just let her off with that.
Someone didn't adjust the clock on the bridge. We are in winter time after all. It's only 1:30.
Well, we might be in winter time that way, time-wise, but certainly the day that we got today is nearly like a summer's day. I know it's not as hot as some of the days we had during the summer, but I'm sure some of the athletes wouldn't have wished it was, because if it's very hot, you can become very dehydrated. You'll be sweating and perspiring so much. As we look back at Pauline, who looks very, very comfortable. Looking at her there, she hasn't shortened her stride, anything. She's just maintained her stride and her pace. Very even-paced athlete.
And still they keep on coming through. John Durkin is the latest to finish. A little help from a friend.
I doubt if the friend went all the way. John's in fairly good condition there. He's actually got time to rub your man's head.
John indeed comes from Kilcock.
And another hero finding his hour in Stephen's Green.
Gary Mathers there coming through. Mick McCartan from Civil Service. Mick actually, I should say, would probably have been running this race with Breda Fogarty, but Breda had to pull out the other day because of a stress fracture, and she was running very well. And number 28, Robert Taylor, who's a vet actually from Stockport.
How are you doing? Not too bad, not too bad. One of my mates in trouble back there.
Oh, is he?
No, it's a she.
Oh, she.
And I'm waiting, we're just bringing her along, you know.
All right, and when is she going to ride down, do you think?
Just a few minutes' time now. Here she is now.
Oh, is she?
Coming
She's going down along.
Yeah.
And tell me, you're about, what, 2.5 hours in now, so you're about over 5 hours.
We reckon around about 6, something like that, you know.
Do you?
But she's going to get in whether she...
And you're going to stay with her
blinking
all the way?
right, blinking right, yes.
What's your name?
John Young.
From where, John?
Templo.
Good man.
I've done 9 of the marathons so far.
And here she comes.
So,
Hold on a sec. How are you? Oh, yeah. You're doing very well. You're going to make it.
I hope.
Tell me something, you have an injury.
I have a knee injury, but I'll keep going. The willpower is there, so
you
I'll
will.
keep going.
Well, he's going to look after. What's your name?
Helen Powell is my name. And is this for television?
Oh, you're on
Well,
live
I
now.
just want to wish all the people in Jacob's management right down to the very top, and all the truck drivers.
You might say that takes the biscuit. So we're back with the serious business of the Ladies' Championship. And into Lombard Street goes our ladies' leader.
Still Pauline Nolan. And she's not going to stop for any biscuits on the way. So I'm sure at this stage she probably feels like, well, I'm a bit hungry. I always think that in a race, you must get a hole down in your stomach. My God, when can I get something to eat?
One wonders about the future for Pauline Nolan. Her clubmate Hayley Smith was a former winner of this race and went on to represent Ireland in the Olympic marathon in Seoul. So maybe Pauline has a great marathon potential up there, up the road. European Championships coming up next year, World Championships the year afterwards, and then of course the Olympic Games in 1992 in Barcelona. She would seem at this stage to be somebody who will be in the shake-up for a place on the Irish team there.
Provided, of course, that Pauline can stay injury-free. This is always the big bugbear with athletes. Achilles tendon injuries, knocked out. Oh God, is that the mammy? Oh God, now I mean, I think the race referee might have something to say about that. And you want to keep a steady thing on the bike. Do you think that woman on the bike is finding it more difficult than Pauline is?
She's keeping a steady eye on her anyway, and she's offering plenty of encouragement.
I wonder, is there a mileometer or a pace thing on that bike? Although that bike looks rather old, to say the least, but I'm sure the lady won't mind me saying that. There's not going to be all this sophisticated stuff on it. They need all this sophisticated. She's turning into Lincoln Place now, and then she's got along Nassau Street and up the hill. I doubt if the boys in blue will let the lady on the bike up Grafton Street with her.
No, she seems to be accompanied solely by our motorcycle pilot, Ian Stewart, who's again rendered sterling service in action on the Nissan, of course, and in action here too. Providing a steady platform for our cameraman to shoot from.
And Ian Stewart knows a thing or two about running. Former
Declan Emerson, our cameraman, on the back of Ian Stewart's bike. We talked to him at the top of the programme with Michael Lester, and as ever, Declan's got his focus absolutely right. And while we're commending our cameraman, Michael Fitzgerald in the helicopter deserves, again, a special word of praise. Steady eye, steady hand, and marvellous pictures from up there. Captain Kieran Haughey piloting him through the skies. Well done, lads. Beautiful pictures.
And from Holland there with Pauline Nolan is Peter de Jong. So maybe the Dutch will help Pauline along Nassau Street.
Well, I don't think Pauline Nolan will be too concerned about the presence of a runner nearby. That's not the same competition that she's involved in. That's Peter de Jong of Holland, another of the international athletes. Past College Park and the hockey pitch there. Pete de Jong, I'm sure, will be quite happy to accompany the girl who's certain to be the ladies' winner home.
Certainly. And Pauline has just actually got into a slipstream there. So coming back up onto the green here, and watch some of the athletes coming through, some of them coming up to the safety of the line. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of men who are very, very glad to see it.
But it really has been a marvellous day for a marathon race. Conditions, virtually no breeze, bright sun in the sky.